Hi everybody and welcome back to the Oldtimer channel. Today we have an amazing build that we want to show you. This was one of the biggest projects we attempted. It's basically an attempt to reincarnate the BMW HP2. If you remember the HP2, it was built I think between 2005 and 2008 and it was the lightest GS BMW have ever built. That bike was 175 kilograms dry and around 200 and something kilograms wet, and we wanted to build something similar but with an R1250GS engine. So here is what we've done to reach that weight. I am sure you all saw the video we've created about the 1250GS adventure. And we had a lot of comments on that video that the bike is too heavy, it has way too much accessories on it. And we do understand that, but we explained that this was a pure road bike. Now, we're showing you the other extreme. We created a GS 1250, which is pure off-road. We've gone as far as we can in dropping this bike's weight and still keep it street legal. Now, we will give you a hint at the end how can we drop the weight more, but then it's going to go street illegal. But we wanted this bike to be street legal because here in the UAE, you need to drive at least 100-120 kilometers to reach an off-road track. So we're going to go through this, why we built this bike, and how did we do it. Why did we build this bike? This is a very dear story to us, and this is why this bike is going to always stay here in Oldtimer. A friend of ours called Rob the Deacon came to us. He was an avid rider. He loved the GS and he would never change this bike for anything. And he was telling me the bike is a bit heavy when you go on sand dunes. UAE is full of sand. It is something that everybody targets. He came to me with a brand new 1250GS and he goes like, I want this bike to be a KTM 890 weight with double the power. Sadly, we finished the bike, and after 3 or 4 months of finishing the bike, Rob the Deacon passed away. May his soul rest in peace. And this bike stayed with Oldtimer. I am sure he's riding in a much better place now, and this video is for him. I hope he will be watching us. How did we start? First of all, we dismantled the entire bike. We brought everything out. The engine, the frame, every little bolt, every little cable went out of the bike. We started from the inside to the outside. The first thing was to look at the frame. The frame did have a few items here and there that were not needed. So we removed, for example, the center stand, and we cut the parts that hold the center stand. We removed all the accessories, the stuff that were holding auxiliary lights, things that are not needed for an off-road bike. We cut all these off. We cleaned it up and we painted it in this fluorescent color just to give it an identity. The subframe on the other side, we couldn't do much about it. It was heavy, it was bulky, and you couldn't do much. So what we decided to do is completely chuck out the old frame, and we created our own subframe made out of titanium tubes. So we dropped the subframe at least by 4 to 5 kilos by doing our own frame. Now, the new frame doesn't really hold much, it's just a few indicators and the number plate, and that's it. So it was much, much lighter. Once we finished the frame, we started looking at what else can we do with this bike to drop the weight. And we went part by part. First thing we've done, of course, in any bike is the exhaust system. So we got rid of the original exhaust system completely, and we put an Akrapovic Titanium Header. But even with that header, we removed the flapper part because that's a bit heavy, and to be honest, we don't need it for an off-road bike. So we removed the flapper, and instead of putting the Akrapovic GS 1250 exhaust, because it's still big, we used the S1000 RR GP slip-on, and that dropped the weight massively. So yes, the bike sounds much louder, but again, it's not something bad in our opinion. From the exhaust system, we went to the second most obvious thing, the battery. Battery is too heavy. We got rid of the battery. We got an anti-gravity lithium battery, the ATZ10S, which drops another 2.5 kilos. We relocated the battery from its original location to the front of the fuel tank. The front fuel tank has the air filter box, but we got rid of the air filter box all the piping of the air filter box, and we used cone filters on the engine. That will give more airflow and at the same time will drop massive weight. I think the air filter with all its accessories and pipes is around 2.5 kilos. So we got rid of that. We relocated the battery to the place of the air filter, also to get a better weight distribution. From there, because this is a street legal bike, we wanted to change the indicator. So we used the Kellermann Atto indicators, triple function in the back. So you have the light, the brake, and the indicator, and the single function in the front. So that alone dropped another half a kilo of it. Keep in mind, we're looking to lose every gram we can. So we went to every little detail. So things like the indicator, yes, they do not probably lose more than 300-400 grams, but accumulative numbers will come up with a kilo, 2 kilos, and 10 kilos at the end. So from there, the holder that holds the headlight unit and the TFT display, we couldn't get rid of it. It holds too many things. It's difficult to replicate. So what we did is we used the same thing rally cars use sometimes, is taking parts of the chassis to make it lighter. We drilled holes into the frame to drop its weight on both sides. From there, after doing that, we changed every single bolt we can into titanium. So ProBolt provided us with all the engine bolts, body bolts, all of that in one package. So everything here on this is titanium racing bolts. In conjunction, all the bolts drop more than 2 kilos when you look at them. So it's a significant amount of weight to look at. From there, we went into suspension and brakes. The brakes, we replaced them with the TRW slotted brakes. These things are at least 300 to 400 grams lighter than the original brake discs. And on the suspension, we went with the Wilbers suspension, and we got rid of the ESA. The ESA has an engine that will allow you to modify the bike suspension behavior. It will raise the bike, lower the bike. We don't need that. We got a custom-built suspension for Rob's weight and for his riding style. It was completely configured for off-road riding. And we got rid of both ESA motors in the front and back, which is another 4 kilos in weight. Once we've done the suspension and brakes, we decided to give this bike more clearance for off-road riding. So we went with a 20-inch front wheel conversion to give it a bit more height. The weight haven't changed much because the material used, these are forged rims, so the material used is lighter. So we actually didn't lose any weight, but we didn't gain much more weight with this. So this also was placed for the front and the rear. They're much stronger rims, so they can take the off-road riding. Since this is an off-road bike, protection is required. It's gonna fall for sure. So we looked at what is the minimal protection we can put so we don't put more weight on. No crash bars, of course, but instead, to protect the cylinder heads, we put the Wunderlich cylinder head guard. This thing can take a fall on the road or off-road, and it will protect the engine 100%. So that was the main protection part. We put the switch guard because everybody knows this is an issue. The switch guard is very flimsy. So we put the Wunderlich switch guard on to protect the sensor for the side stand. With protection also, we used a carbon fiber bash plate from Elenberger to keep the weight to a minimal, but at least protect the engine from below. All these small covers, and to keep the bike appearance good, we changed everything into carbon. ESA cover, the battery cover, all these small, the nose, everything was changed to carbon to keep the looks of the bike, but still drop the weight. These carbon parts are at least 50% lighter than the original ones, so that also contributed to the weight reduction. Because again, the bike we wanted to keep the bike as street legal, we had to put a number plate. For that, we used the Rizoma folding number plate holder, so it's very light and you can fold it in when you go off-road, so it doesn't keep protruding or hit the tire by any way. We have also done a few items here and there. The rear brake reservoir was from Rizoma. It's aluminum, it's lighter than the original one. We have put Rizoma levers for 2 reasons. They are lighter and they will also participate in protection, because I did not want to put handguards, they're too heavy. These are foldable brake levers, so if he folds, they will not break, they just fold up. Both sides, clutch and brake lever, have been changed. Finally, in the protection category, we added radiator guards. Off-road bikes will require radiator guards. These radiators are way too exposed, so we put the Wunderlich radiator guard on the bike. For the styling of the bike, we did not want to keep this bike looking as a 1250GS. So we got the rad kit from Unit Garage, but because there was so many changes, it didn't fit exactly. We had to do some minor alterations here and there, but this rad kit looks sick. I mean, the entire bike, some people look at the bike and they don't know it's a GS. So this kit comes from Unit Garage. It's the full fairings with the covers, and it's a little lighter than the actual GS cover kit. With that also, we use the Wunderlich Jetflow windshield. It's a short windshield. It's perfect for off-roading, and it weighs next to nothing. Finally, for ergonomics and comfort, although it's not our main target, we've changed the pegs into the Rizoma foot pegs. They give much better connection with the rider, and they're bigger. And of course, they are lighter than the original pegs. We also changed the brake lever to give more access to the rider for rear brakes, because this is extremely important when you're doing off-roading. Finally, we added the Rizoma risers and the grip puppies on the handlebars. Once we've done all these changes, finally, we retuned the bike. So we put it in a dyno and we retuned it because we've changed the air filters to cone filters. We changed the exhaust into a shorter exhaust. Tuning was a must. So we've put this thing on the dyno, we retuned it, and now it's pushing around 150 horsepower and 145 Newton meters of torque. By the end of all this, we lost around 40 kilograms from the bike. So this is now a 210 kilogram fully fueled, fully loaded with all the fluids, instead of 250 kilograms. Can we drop the weight more? Yes, we can. But we're gonna have to go into a street illegal bike. We can get rid of all the number plate holder, the indicators, the light. We can get rid of the light. And most importantly, we can get rid of the entire ABS system. So we will remove the ABS, we remove one caliper from the front and one disc, and we stay with one disc and caliper. This, at least with these changes, will drop another 10 kilos, making this a sub 200 kilogram bike. Is it on the plan? Yes, it is on the plan. We are planning to do something. We have also got our hands on some other items in carbon that will drop the weight even more. And once we do this, we will give you an updated video.